I'm joined by young entrepreneur Kevin Lavelle. Kevin is co-founder and CEO of Mizzen+Main. Kevin, thanks a lot for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Michael. Appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about Mizzen+Main.
Yeah, so Mizzen+Main was started, we launched just over 2 years ago, and the goal was to bring advanced performance fabrics to traditional menswear. The idea came, watched a guy run into a building soaked in sweat about a decade ago. I was an intern in college. I was working in D.C. and watched a guy run into an important meeting, just looked absolutely terrible, and when he finally dried off, I think he looked arguably worse. And I was a golfer at the time, still am to a certain extent when I get the time, but and I watched what happened with performance fabrics kind of infiltrating polos. And at first it was deemed almost unacceptable to wear performance polos on traditional golf courses, and then slowly it became adopted, and now they're universal. And I thought, why not have the same thing happen with traditional menswear? So bring moisture-wicking, wrinkle-free, four-way stretch fabrics, that breathe better and wear better to traditional menswear, starting with a dress shirt. So we did that, launched in July of 2012 after about a year of product development. And here we are 2 years later. We have dress shirts, Henleys, denim, and blazers. We're stocked in about 40 locations around the country. Most of our business is online, but we've got some great wholesale partners in Saks Avenue, Bloomingdale's, and some specialty men's stores. Everything we do is American-made, and our goal is to build the next great American brand that infuses innovation with tradition.
Now, you mentioned about a year of product and development. After coming up with the idea for moisture-wicking dress shirts, what were the next few steps that you and your co-founders took to turn the idea into an actual product?
So I worked basically behind the scenes. I had a full-time job at the time, so this was a nights and weekend kind of activity for about a year. That was finding fabrics, learning how to even ask for what the things I was looking for were while not giving away my idea. Once I had the first fabric, then I needed to make that first shirt, and I actually worked with a local seamstress to copy one of my existing shirts, but with these fabrics. Once I had the first shirt made, from there it was need to get tech packs and buttons and labels and hang tags and threads and the name, the colors, the logos, like all of those component pieces took about a year to pull together. I had that first prototype about 4 months into trying to bring this to reality, and then after that first prototype, it was about another 8 months before we launched.
So would you say there was a large barrier to entry, or was the process not as difficult as one might think?
I think it was significantly more difficult than I anticipated. To find the manufacturers that I needed to find. Most of these companies don't have websites, and if they do, they're not, necessarily all that search friendly. It is for someone who doesn't know the industry, it is an incredibly opaque industry, and I just didn't even know where to start looking. So I spent so much more time just trying to find what I was looking for than actually working on the product and refining all those elements. There are some great new resources out there today. They've existed for a little while, but were not around when I started. One of them is Makers Row, and it is a listing of American manufacturing companies. And if I had Makers Row, my world would have been a lot simpler for a lot of time that I spent trying to pull things together. But it was trying to navigate a very opaque industry with high barrier to entry on top of, the general barriers to entry. To make one dress shirt in the manufacturing industry is almost impossible if you're not already plugged in and really kind of humming along. And the reason being, most manufacturers don't want to make one of anything. They want to make 1,000 of something, and they'll make one as long as they know 1,000 is coming right behind it. But it's not something that you can just sort of dip your toe into the water. It's not like programming where if you know how to program, it's just sort of brute force or asking people for some insight or things to maybe make what you're doing a little bit better, and you can kind of build a prototype and from there go out and get some feedback and try and build from there. Getting an actual product made was significantly more difficult than I anticipated.
Did your previous experience in management consulting and venture capital translate well into that role, or was there still that huge learning curve?
I think it was, so I spent 2 years in management consulting and then 2 years working for an energy venture capital group within a privately held energy company. It was tremendously helpful because my whole job for several years was to solve other people's problems. So to look at what people were doing and where they might be able to make improvements or how they could look at things differently, what other people were doing in the industry. And so that was, the perfect training ground for me to go try and solve effectively what was my own problem to solve. And so it was fantastic training opportunity.
And there had to be some risks in launching the company. What would you say was the biggest risk you took to pursue Mizzen+Main?
I think it's kind of one in the same for me with two different items rolled together. And it was deciding to get it off the ground. Doing things on the side for a while, it's all well and good. But it was diving in with that first run of manufacturing the shirts. It's not something, not having my own, sewing expertise or, an army of sewers around me. You have to commit to making a first full production run. I couldn't just make 50. I couldn't just make, 75. I had to commit to a reasonable production run to get it off the ground. And if I'm going to do that, obviously there's a large financial cost associated with that. So I had to invest a lot of what I had saved. And part and parcel of that was if I'm going to do it and not just kind of tinker on the side, I needed to respect my employer that employed me at the time and say, I'm going to leave to go start my own company. This is not something that I could do on the side. It wasn't a crafts project that I wanted to see if it could turn into something larger and I could just sort of start selling it at night. And on the weekends, it was something that required a full commitment. So once I kind of hit go on that first production run, the financial and kind of career commitment was in full effect. And so there was no dipping my toe in the water once I decided to do it. And, right now I would say the risk has paid off, but I still have a long way to go in terms of what I know I can build and what I'm trying to do here.
Now, you mentioned a high barrier entry. What would you say some of the primary risks of being an entrepreneur in the textiles industry are?
It comes back to what I was saying around the manufacturing process. It's their scale is a very tangible thing. To go from 1 to 10 to 1,000 to 10,000 customers means you have to make significantly more than that amount of product in order to service those customers. And you have to commit to making, buying the raw fabric, to buying the time on the machinery to make the actual garments, all of the component pieces, buttons, labels, hang tags, thread, boxes, everything it takes to fulfill. Scale is a very difficult thing to achieve in a physical goods world because you actually have to go out and make each piece, and to make each piece is, as I said, a requirement that's much larger than just that number of pieces that you actually sell. And so the risks associated with the capital commitments are enormous. And if you build something online, if you build a good system, it can work for 10, 100, 10,000, or 100,000 as long as you have the server capacity to run it. And so scale in the physical world is a totally different concept, and the risks associated with it are dramatically higher.
What is the importance of insurance to your business?
Yeah, so we're not in the chances of us getting sued are very, very minimal. We have one location here in Dallas. It's a showroom / our office, and so there's always the slip and fall probability of the world where people are just overly litigious. But our insurance is more around the business and kind of inventory insurance. We have all of our invested capital in inventory sits in our office, and should something happen to the building, or should something happen in terms of theft or a flood or tornado or any of those things, our entire business runs on what we sell. And so if we were to lose that inventory, that would just be obviously catastrophic to our business, but it could end us almost immediately. So we have definitely addressed the insurance question early on, knowing how critical it was for us.
Now, one of the things that I love that Mizzen+Main does is you work with veterans in several different ways. Why don't you tell us a little bit about why you're passionate about helping veterans and the ways that Mizzen+Main can contribute to their cause?
So for growing this business, I wanted there to be something that was part and parcel to who we are. It was integral to everything that we do, and not just, let's just write a check at the end of the year. And so in thinking when I started the business, what did I want that to be? There are a multitude of wonderful causes and entities and people and things that deserve support. But at the end of the day, when I thought long and hard about it, the people who choose to put their lives on the line and be selfless to protect this country, to protect our interests, to protect our borders, all of those things, there's nothing political about that in my mind. These are people who put country and nation and community above self. And oftentimes there's a high price associated with that, whether it's a physical or emotional toll, or in many cases sacrificing everything. Those are individuals that, to me, give more than they've ever been asked to, and they do it without hesitation. And so that was something that I said, let's have it be integral to who and what we are. So we've got some great partnerships. We work with the Navy SEAL Foundation and One Team, One Fight. We've been a part of a variety of fundraisers, and however we can help and do beyond just writing a check. And then now that we're starting to scale our business and grow, we're looking to give internship opportunities that, might not be available or offered otherwise to veterans, to give them some on-the-job training and exposure and experience, because the best way to get a job is to have one and be referred over, or use that to leverage a connection into, a network. And we can say, to use very generic names, Jane or John worked for us, and they were really great. They helped us with marketing, or they helped us with supply chain, they helped us with fulfillment, they helped us with website or creative. Obviously, we can't hire everyone, but our goal is to help plug them into our networks and give them an opportunity that they might not have had otherwise.
And tell us about the manufacturing renaissance and why you make all of your clothing in the U.S.
So I am by no means an anti-globalist. I've got my Apple products, and I certainly am well aware of and appreciative of all the things that global trade have done for us. But at the same time, there are things that can be made here. And, I want to be able to have a positive impact on our community. And the more things that are made here, the more jobs that obviously will directly be associated with that. But then the number of jobs that kind of are tack on. So things that are things that benefit from our supply chain being located here, that may not be directly involved with the physical products, but are ancillary to that. There are a number of companies that are, one, tired of dealing with international headaches and problems, and two, understanding that, having a positive impact on their community helps in so many ways, in terms of, not just the tax base, but good paying jobs that will then support the rest of the infrastructure associated with that. And the more good paying jobs you have, the stronger your community is. The stronger your community is, the more customers that you'll have for your product, and the more customers you have for your product, the more you'll grow, and the more that benefits the town, the city, the state, and the country.
So what's next for Mizzen+Main at this point?
Started with dress shirts. We've got Henley's denim and blazers, and my goal is to move into the full suite of menswear. I think there are some things that we'll hold off on, because there's a lot of other people doing, things in the world of athletic apparel and socks and underwear and those things. There's some great companies doing things with these advanced fabrics, but right now no one else is really doing things the way that we're doing it and the way that we're approaching it. So I'm looking forward to expanding our full product lineup. We're not doing anything in women's quite yet, but it's on our horizon, because we've had a lot of requests from women to do something with our fabric and our approach. But our goal is to become the next great American brand and have a full suite of products available that combine our approach to advanced performance fabrics, but incorporating it into the world of traditional style and menswear.
Once again, this is Michael Luchies, joined by CEO and co-founder of Mizzen+Main, Kevin Lavelle. We're going to finish up here with a few questions about you as an entrepreneur and your advice for fellow young entrepreneurs. So what do you feel like has been the biggest key for your success so far?
I think there are obviously a couple things associated with it. In my mind, there's internal and external. Internal is just a commitment to doing whatever it takes to succeed, and there's been a lot of personal sacrifices along the way. The instability, the highs and the lows, the sacrifices from not getting to do all the things you might want to do, not getting to see your family as much. All of those things they take a toll emotionally, but just knowing that you're committed to the long term, to building something and really doing whatever it takes to succeed. There's an attitude there that it is critical, because the highs are high and the lows are low, and some people can't handle the roller coaster, and some people can't handle the valley or the low part of it. And so just knowing that you are going to make it through, and lean on others for support when you can, and stick to what drives you over the longer term. And then at the same time, the externalities, mentors are so important. To get advice from them at times that you might be stuck, and at the same time, as important as mentors are, having a support network. My wife has been through this with me from the very beginning, and I could not have done this without her. I've got great friends and family that have been there to support when they can. Whether it's buying our product and spreading the word, or just being a helpful ear to bend when things get tough and I need to talk to them. That's been absolutely critical to being able to get through this.
What drives you on an everyday basis as an entrepreneur?
Knowing that I am building something that has never been done before, and I think truly can make a mark on the world. Things go up and down every day, but I have a long-term view of this, and I really believe that I'm building something phenomenal that can have a long-term impact on people's perceptions and our community, our country, and to know that this is something I really want to build and see succeed is more than trying to build a company and sell it and go do the next thing. This is it for me. This is something I truly believe is the next great American brand, and I keep my eye on that.
Do you consider entrepreneurs courageous?
Absolutely, but I think it pales in comparison. Courageous might not be the word that I would assign to it. Bold, sometimes just naive enough to commit to trying to do something. But I think there are people that are much more courageous than entrepreneurs that deserve that word quite a bit more from first responders, firefighters, police officers, to men and women of the military. Those are people who truly put their lives on the line. I can take risks with my career and future and savings, but it's a different world when you're truly putting your life on the line.
For other entrepreneurs attempting to break into apparel and fashion, what would be your advice to them?
Take a while to study the industry and understand the pitfalls, the things to avoid, the things to shoot for. Talk to people in the industry to get some perspective. But as much as I'll say that, it would also be just do what you can to get started. You can sit and study things forever. You can try and figure it all out before actually getting it off the ground. But I think that if you just take the leap to actually get out there and do it, you'll find that you just figure things out as you go, and the analysis paralysis, I think, stops a lot of people from actually pursuing their dreams and being an entrepreneur and getting started. But you just have to get out there and actually do it, give it a shot.
And regardless of the industry, what's your best overall piece of advice for any young aspiring entrepreneur that may be listening?
It's a quote that I heard from Jim Carrey gave a commencement speech, and it made its way kind of virally a couple months ago, but it really stuck with me, and it's, you can fail at doing what you don't love, so you might as well try to do what you actually love. And it's not that I believed that I was always destined to be a clothing or fashion or, textile entrepreneur, but I really truly believed in this idea, and I loved the notion of building something, a tangible product that people actually put their hands on, and building a brand that people connect with and relate to, and that it means something. And so once I kind of really started to get into the development of this, I couldn't let the idea go of building a truly great American company, and I've stuck with it ever since. So I could have had a million reasons to just stick with what was a very good career and a safe, ladder to climb over the next decade, but I wanted more than that, and the idea of building something is for me impossible to beat.
And how can people find out more about you and Mizzen+Main?
So going to Mizzen+Main.com, MIZZENANDMAIN.com, or when it comes to me, Twitter's a great way to stay in touch with what's going on. It's at Kevin SMU, and I've got some Medium articles and just try and keep some thoughts out there as to what the process looks like. So Twitter is the best way to do so, in my opinion.
Once again, it's been Michael Luchies with Kevin Lavelle of Mizzen+Main. Kevin, thanks again for your time, and good luck with everything in the future.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate the opportunity.